Allah guides, no one can misguide. And whoever Allah leaves astray, no one can guide. And we bear witness that there is none worthy of worship besides Allah. قال الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah says in the Quran that the reason why we have revealed this Quran is so that it can become a mercy and a healing for mankind. Right? So therefore, whenever we read the Quran, we have to read the Quran through the lens of compassion, through the lens of our social landscape. What are the needs of people? So one of the things that I want to focus on today is rules. The Quran is packed full of rules. And one of the things that we don't like as human beings is rules. Somehow the soul has a tendency to want to be free. Right? So we don't like rules. But sometimes rules are important. Okay? Alan Bennett, who wrote, he says very humorously, he says, we started off trying to set up a small anarchist community, but people won't obey the rules. I think it's very funny. So that's the nature of people. We don't want to obey rules because we don't want to be restricted, we want to be free. But not realizing that if we live in a state of anarchy, there are also rules. And the rule is that don't obey any rules. And even that is difficult for humanity to do. And I mean, if we look at some of our new democracies in the world today, we see how on one level there's the freedoms that are afforded to society, to humanity, but at the same time there's certain restrictions, or there's certain things that are lacking within those societies when it comes to spirituality and when it comes to people's actual happiness. So sometimes some of these rules we may not like, but they are necessary for us to follow, and I would like to talk about some of that today. As the Quran also says in Surah Al-Imran, verse 139, قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ سُنَنْ فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرْ كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Allah says there's many people in the past who have tried to set up their own systems. Right? فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So go and travel through the earth and see what was the result of those people who wanted to set up their own systems. Many before you tried many ways of life, so travel through the earth and observe what happened to those who denied the truth. Right? So those who wanted to live outside of the rule, see what happened to them. One story that is very familiar to all of us is the story of Nabi Lut and the people of Nabi Lut. Right? So the rule there was hospitality, and the rule there was if you are going to have any intimate sexual relationships, it has to at least be consensual, it has to be faithful, and so on. And because of their own doings, they were destroyed because they didn't want to follow the rule. And then Lut returned and he said to them, أَتَأْتُونَ الْفَاحِشَةَ وَأَنْتُمْ تُبْصِرُونَ. Do you want to commit these things, yet you see what the effects of it was? Apparently, some of the excavations that were done in that area around the Dead Sea found that there were actually huge cemeteries buried under the debris. And but there was a separate cemetery of men and women buried together. And all of these corpses, when they dissected it, they found that that was a special grave for those who died of syphilis. So the disease was actually spreading there because of the not wanting to follow the rules when it comes to intimate sexual relationships. Also, there are rules when we have to relate to others. The fact that we are born in families, in communities, is indicative of the fact that we can't avoid to relate to others. The way we relate to one another can be beneficial to us as people, or it can also harm us. If we follow the relationships with the rules that it comes with the commitments and the agreements that it comes with, both parties will be happy in the partnership. If we bend the rules, or if we want to do things our own way, then there are consequences to that. So hence, for our own social and for our spiritual success and happiness, we need to respect those boundaries within relationships. It's human nature to be neglectful sometimes, and speak for myself first. We have rules in society. For example, traffic rules. I'm one of those who gets the most fines for traffic. You go to a supermarket, you buy something, and you see the sign that says, put your trolley here, but you're in a hurry, so you just put your trolley outside. And these rules, sometimes we don't, we just take them for granted. But little do we know the impact that that might have on somebody else. I mean, imagine a lot of people who disobey the rules on the road. We would have some deaths on the road. And who will take responsibility for that? Also, if you imagine that I'm your counselor, right? So obviously, when you're a counselor, you as the person who come and see the counselor, you trust that counselor. You trust that he has the skills and the knowledge to be able to handle with your life issues. But what if I don't play by the rules of counseling, right? Am I going to be responsible for your life? When you read through the Quran, the Quran tells us about salah, and about hajj, and about fasting and giving zakah and all of these things. But they're all tools that Allah has given us to develop ourselves so that we can become people that are conscious about our relationships, the rules, and so on and so forth. And so for those things, Allah can forgive and overlook because it's between you and Allah personally. But the relationships that you hold with people, if there's anything that you've done wrong to harm somebody in a relationship, whether it is a personal relationship or a business relationship, then that person has to forgive you, right? So therefore the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has stressed a lot the importance of keeping good relationships with people, because that's what brings you into Jannah. How did you socialize on this plane with the rest of the other souls is important. So one of the reasons why we take rules lightly or disobey rules is because of entitlement. Sometimes you leave the trolley there because you think, I'm in a hurry, these parking terrorists, they can pick it up and they can put it, where it belongs. Or you're in a hurry to go somewhere and you speed because you feel entitled. I have to be there at this next meeting. So you disobey the rules. But if we bring that to the consciousness, and think, what happens if I break the rules? Who might get hurt in the process? Then we would maybe leave home a little bit earlier, right? Or we would be a little bit more careful about where we put the trolley and when we pay the bill and so on, because other people get affected through the relationship that we have with them. So another reason why we follow the rules and get everybody else to follow the rules in society with us, it's because it keeps that social equilibrium. Right? If everybody follows the rules within a society, everybody will be happy. Because if you discipline yourself to follow rules, right? You can go to bed at the end of the night and you can mentally tick off, I've done this, I've done that, and I've done this on time, I didn't harm anybody, and so, like your personal muhasabah. And it will keep you a happy person. So we need to also remember how the human brain works. You are remembered by the masses for the rules that you've broken and not for the rules that you followed. Right? So often we get that, right? You break a rule and people will make a big fuss about that. But do something good and nobody really notices it. So perhaps if you want people to remember good things about you, keep within the rules and be exceptional about what you do. Robert Heinlein, he says, very wisely, he says, I am free, no matter what rules surround me. If I find them tolerable, I tolerate them. If I find them too obnoxious, I break them. And I am free because I know that I alone am morally responsible for everything that I do. So it reminds me of a Quranic verse, which I will read to you now. But it's about rules that are not all rules are good rules. Sometimes rules are set up by forefathers, They might be serving a particular interest, and now we come as an evolved society and we find that that rule doesn't apply anymore, or that rule is marginalizing some people. Obviously, in those kind of cases, we have to be diligent enough to challenge those rules. The Quran says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْقَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. The Quran says, when it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed of truth, follow the rules and work within the laws, they say, we would rather follow that which our forefathers have taught us. And then the Quran says, what? Even though your forefathers were not informed and they were not guided? So sometimes you have to challenge rules, like fighting apartheid that we did in the past, challenging a rule that denies somebody access to health services, for example, coming out in society despite society believing that your sexuality is a sin, right? Because when we do these things, we then shape society's comfort zones, right? And we help society to develop new rules for society and for the benefit of society, or the betterment of society. So we see that obeying rules have personal as well as social benefits, right? But there's also spiritual benefits to obeying rules. One of the branches of tasawwuf, or of Islam, is called tasawwuf, Islamic mysticism, and it teaches us that there are 4 different stages of human development. Those who've done IPEC will be familiar with it. The highest stage that one can reach is the stage of ma'rifah. That's the stage of being completely in unison with Allah. So Allah becomes the ears with which you hear, the eyes with which you see, the feet with which you walk. Your compassion is that of Allah's kind of compassion. There is no space for selfishness. The love is completely unconditional. Right? That's the highest stage that human beings can reach. But the stage before you can reach that stage is the stage of haqiqah. Right? And this is the stage of ultimate truth, ultimate reality. Right? It's a stage that you move in not by choice. There's a moment that it happens within your life, where everything, where the reality of life becomes clear to you. You know your purpose. You know your role within the bigger scheme of things. And it becomes an uncomfortable and uneasy thing for you to be inauthentic. It's just about being authentic. Your engagements with people is also authentic. It can literally make you sick when you're not authentic. Then there's a stage before that, before you can enter into that haqiqah, which is a stage of tariqah, which is probably the most difficult stage because most people don't want to go there. Tariqah means the path. So it's a thorny road. You have to get out of your comfort zone if you want to go there. You have to overcome your fears. You have to take uncalculated risks. You have to rely on faith, not on fear, or operate from faith and not from fear. And the Quran says about these people, the Quran says, so this is a painful stage, and hence most people don't want to enter into this stage, and hence most people stay ignorant. Go into that tariqah. Go into that place where you can overcome the ignorance, right? And move into a place of understanding. So, and the stage before tariqah is the stage of sharia, right? And this is a very important stage. Sharia does not mean the Islamic law. The sharia stage in terms of tasawwuf is the stage of groundedness. So when we grounded, we follow the rules. Right? When we grounded, we obey authority, legitimate authority. When we are grounded, we follow the laws of the universe. We don't go against the laws of the universe. And when we grounded, we do our rituals, right? Our rituals that keeps us growing and keeps us connected. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Right through the ages, you'll find that the majority of humanity is lost. Why are they lost? They're not prepared to follow the rules. They don't even want to go to the Sharia level. How are they still going to enter into the Tariqah level? Right? But Allah says, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمِنُوا, except those who believe. Right? وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and they follow that belief up with good deeds, and they attach themselves to good causes. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, and when things get tough, the challenges comes, they act with justice and with truth. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and one of the tools that they take with them on that journey is sabr, patience and perseverance. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الكريم ونفعنا إياكم بالآيات وذكر الحكيم إنه جواد ملك بر رب رؤوف.